Just figures, man. There we go. There we go. Now we have to be nice. All right, but anyway, that's how the year looks, and hopefully you guys are having a pretty relaxed time, so to speak. It's funny where I work. So most of you know I work at FedEx. It's funny this time of year, and I might have said this at the last meetup that obviously it's Christmas time. We're logistics, so we are balls to the wall, literally, and our hubs, and actually the hub locations, anything dealing with the actual hubs, the actual planes, they are just wide open. You can't hire enough people like this. We always have seasonal hires. It's just unimaginable, the volume. But because of that, obviously I work in IT. We are restricted from pushing anything to prod without express permission from, God and the heavenly hosts. Like, you have to send it all the way up the chain, like, don't touch anything. And so this whole month is basically like a lot of get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready. And you kind of have things staged. And then once they release us around the, 6th or so of January, like, everybody's putting their requests, like, all right, now. So it's funny, like, we're busy, but at the same time, in my little world, we're slow. Like, we're really, really slow. We're not doing crap right now. So that's kind of neat. It kind of reminds me of, like, in education, like teachers, like, you have, longer Christmas holidays and big summer breaks. It kind of reminds me of that, like, because we're really like in a coast mode. Like, unless it's just broken and you absolutely have to have a hot fix, like, don't touch crap, because they don't want to mess up something that's just, the volume's insane. Particularly ever since the pandemic, when coronavirus first became a thing in 2020, that summer of 2020, we were doing Christmas numbers in the summer because everybody was buying everything online. I mean, the tissue paper, the paper towels, clothing, everything was being bought online. So, and it's come down a little bit, but it's still stayed up there. So that's really neat. Nevertheless, here we are. This is the Code and Share, first Saturday of the month. We always do a Code and Share opportunity. We ask people to come and bring any code that you have worked on that you would like to share. It can be a finished project, half done project, just a problem you solved, anything code related. We just want to see code from as many individuals as decides to show up. And today we have 3 illustrious people. So I'm going to quit my blathering about and just turn the mic over to whoever wants to go first. You can share screen and we'll have us a good old time. And per normal, I am not bringing anything to the table today. I'm the host, so hope you're not waiting for me. I will one day. I have before. I think I've worked once before, but not very often.
I have something, but give me 1 minute. I was typing as you were talking. I think I broke it. So let me quickly fix it and I can show it. So if somebody else can go ahead, I can go next.
If I could be so bold, Tim, I'm not sure if I recognize your face. You mind throwing an introduction? I know JC for sure. Joseph.
Yeah, I met you the first time at the tech that was at the meetup. I met you at FedEx.
Yeah.
I met you there. Yeah, but I've been coming to meetings. I came in one of the classes for the data structures and algorithms.
Yep.
But and I told I'm in a boot camp. I'm almost finished, so I'm on my final project. I got code to show, but I'm on my Chrome. I have to. If y'all want me to, I have to change laptops. You want me to do that?
If you would like to, if it's a hassle, don't worry about it. But we always love.
Okay, yeah, I want to, because I got a project I did, like a chat app in Java, in full stack Java. If y'all want to see that.
Here. What boot camp are you in?
I'm in a boot camp out of Canada. It's called Coders Campus with Trevor Page. Yeah.
Coders.
I found it online.
JC, you heard of that one? I thought I knew most of the boot camps. Obviously,
no. This one here is out of Canada from a guy named Trevor Page. I've been following him for a while on a podcast, and and I've been. But I'm gonna stay on this laptop, but I'm gonna switch the other one up. Is that fine?
Absolutely, man. Whatever you need to do, just
okay.
No stress whatsoever. And they focus on Java. Get out of town.
Oh yeah. Thanks.
Don't find much of that. Okay. Thanks. Well, yeah. Get yourself together. That's cool. So in the meantime, JC or Joseph, whoever would like to go first. Coders Campus.
I don't really have anything today, but I could scrounge something up probably.
Whatever you like, man. Uh-oh.
I'll let JC go first.
Excuse me 1 second.
No problem. Let's see. So I can pull this up. All right, let's see, Cheryl. Cheryl. All right, here we go. All right, so this right here is an ideal, and y'all gotta forgive me, it's not at the best of what I believe I can do. I just haven't had the time I want to invest in it, but it's called Software Engineer Library. The ideal behind it is I'm gonna try to gather up information from the coding community about books or any type of resource that they found was a great source for software engineering. And they can submit it to me, and it was going to get the title, the person, the author, what day it was, the platform like freecodecamp.org, and then sort of from a list of subjects like testing or React or backend or whatnot. And so it's going to be to where somebody can go to a website and you can say, hey, I want to know more about coding. Is there any resources to let me learn? You say, hey, go to the website here, software engineer library. They go to it and they can hover over something. It'll tell them, you see how many favorites it got, how many stars from people who go through and say, hey, I know it's a good book and start. So it's one feature, you'll be able to star a book. Another one, you go to it, you can make a list. So you can see the book here, you can click a button. It's going to add it to your own personal list on your device. You can keep up with all the books or resources that you want to go study and whatnot. And also you can put an edit feature. It's the one I'm working on quite before we started, where I'm gonna allow, from at least for myself and maybe a few others, to go in and edit something. Really simple, right? So right now I just got the UI and a little bit of the UX working. So not a lot to show, but it's at the beginning stages. You can go to different sizes, and it changes the where I something new, different for me, which is changing from, hey, a mobile is down here. You click one of these and it will bring up a motor pop-up. That's one of the features I plan on having. You can go full screen, it's all up here instead. I'm hoping in the future to have some back end to it. I'm gonna start off with a Node Express back end, just sort of more practice. Then I want to at some point try to go to a MongoDB, and then hopefully practice some more databases. I know that's where I'm weak at. So this will hopefully lead to opportunity doing that. Also, I want to rebuild it with TypeScript once I finish, to once again learn more about that. That's my December targeted technology to learn is TypeScript. So I want to rebuild this first in React, then I want to rebuild it again in TypeScript. That's the goal. Also, just to add on to this right here, once again, I'm trying to create my own, it's a word for it. When you have a development plan, a software development plan, you go by SDLC or something like that. But I always start off as is my initial thoughts, and which is function of data development, expect API, version 2 ideal, visual ideal, where I got from Dribble and whatnot. I think about my pages and the styles and whatnot, and the components. And then once I get through doing all that right there, I start doing, making to-do lists each day. And as I work through that habit, I should check them out from what I could, like today goal is to do this right here. Also, as I work, I try to build up a list of resources that I use and informational stuff. So just to anybody who want to get an idea of how I work, I try to build this up so that over time I have a list of resources to pull from. And the only other thing I want to show is that, once again, before I start working, I try to make a diagram of, I use Adobe XD. Let me drop this down. There we go. Just come over with the original. Now, first I started on a piece of paper, but eventually I went to Adobe XD. My original design, it just kept changing until I got something that I really like. Then I started working on the desktop view. So do mobile first, then desktop. And first I'm gonna do it this way, but I just didn't like it, so I decided to do a version 4 this right here. So once again, the project is not finished, not been fleshed out 100%, but I got at least half of the UI done and whatnot. And that is it for me. Any questions? I can take any questions.
And I think I'm blown away more by your planning doc than the app. That is, man, number one, that is something that people can, the kind of structure that people can use who are learning to code even before they get their first job. And if they were to whip out something like this in an interview, it's a wrap. The level of planning, but there's nothing here that demands you have experience already. These are things that anybody can pick up if they have the time and show a flow of thought, show a process going from design through the iterations to the production app. I love this. And then on the tail end, you already have your complete format for your blog post. What you did, how you did it, when you did it, resources you use, like this is, I like your app, but I guess I've seen so many of your apps, like I know it's going to be awesome. But seeing this planning, full transparency, I do not have anything that resembles this in my life. Perhaps I should, not to this level of detail. So shout out to you on that.
Thank you. Thank you. Any more questions or concerns?
I'd love to see some of the code behind this.
The code behind it sort of shaky. It's in React. I'm using the Visual Studio Code. I mean, not to take out the got a lot of time. I always work with my UI on one side, my styles on the other side. So I would help sort of dual, but basic. Just starting out, haven't gotten into the data or whatnot. So just real simple start and header content, and then the bottom. And then the bottom, once again, it switches. It's the mobile tools. Whenever we go to a full screen, this disappears, and the header has this inside of it. And then just like, once again, I try to have I try to break as many things down into components as possible. Add favorites, book, content, edit book, everything broken down into components with its own UI and style sheet. And then one big global style sheet with my root of CSS variables. And I attempted to do tests, but I got tired of it, so I stopped. My goal originally was to do TDD throughout the process, but I started it and I'm like, it's too much. Any other questions? Does that help? Did that help explain my code?
Yeah, it looks good.
Fantastic.
You're gonna add a key. You're gonna add a key to whatever you're mapping. I saw that warning in your console.
Yeah, I just haven't gotten to it yet. Yeah, I think I can figure out what it's doing. The rating, the stars. I got the stars there. I just need to add a key to them.
Yeah, I do that all the time. Half my stuff is a warning about keys.
Yeah, I just wanted to. Whenever I find end of day, like, okay, my mind getting tired, I'm finished. I'm no more creativity. Then I try to clean up any stuff like this.
It looks great, and I'm with Lawrence. Your planning is the best I've ever seen.
Thank you.
Hey, JC, I have a question because I don't know how this works. Not top of my head. I think if I'm looking at it correctly, there's a master list of resources, but then you said users can like pick up certain ones to be in their like personal library or account, something like that. Did I hear that?
Right.
Like favorites, or how does that work?
What I want to do is save it to your to the user's local storage first. Mm-hmm. It's gonna be the version 1 local store and so when you sign on, you will see you can click on look at your list and show all your storage. But later on, version 2, I want each person have it on an account, and that way it's not based on your device. So you go device mean the list you store to your phone may be different from the list you store to your laptop.
Sure.
So I'd rather it be by account and have it in a database somewhere. Once again, it will be a learning opportunity for me with having different users and each of them having their own list of resources.
Gotcha. So that piece isn't something you've done before?
I have not.
What's your like top of mind? What's your way to separate those? How are those two things different in code? Eventually, I know you haven't done it yet. This is just all top of my head. Like there's a master list, it's saved somewhere, but then a user comes along and says, I like number 1, 7, and 8. What would differentiate that in the code that it's theirs versus the general?
My
Is that
first
just a
thought,
field or?
my first thought, it would be an object stored in local storage, and just sort of it be credit and it's saved to that person's local storage. So what a local storage would do, let's say you leave and you come back, the first thing it's going to do is check your local storage. Say, hey, do this person already have a list? If so, load it.
Mhm.
And that's just for that first part.
If you save it like that, is that more memory?
You're
Is there a way to
gonna
do it
use memory on.
you have to make a new object of the thing that can they not just reference the existing one?
I don't think so. From why, if I'm understanding the question and answering it right correctly,
I'm imagining 1 million users. Do you really want 1 million users all saving their own, or simply referencing the thing that already exists?
I rather them save their own. I can't see 1 billion users having all resources. They're gonna pick and choose a couple of books or resources that they like and saving it to their own device.
Cool.
But then once you go to the saving it to a database and having 1 million users, that could get tedious. And that's where it may be better to have a reference. Okay, this user have these 5 books picked out and you just need to reference them. So that probably done a lot different versus having an entire list dedicated to that one person. But once again, it's not images. I'm not trying to do any pictures or images. It's all text.
So what I think is really cool about that kind of thing too is it represents a really good learning opportunity, right? Like you figure out how you want to get everything into and out of like one database, and then your next step is you generalize it, right? Like you take a step back and you wrap it such that you could change your database backend if you needed to. And that's how people get that like million user scale, right? Like you start off with like an Airtable or something, right? Get your data structure figured out. And then, once you've got your basically your data layer middleware in place, you could switch that out for like, a distributed MongoDB setup if you wanted to like, store, Facebook size data at some point down the road. And that, there's a lot of moving parts in that, but like those are some fun things to learn.
That's what I'm hoping. Once again, I've always thought these projects and I never get that far. I always some point just stop and like, okay, I'm gonna get back to what's fun and build something else. Hoping this will carry me to that database part and I can continue on. So if next month you see me on something else, you know what happened.
There you go.
On those databases, JC, if you ever want to go through something like that on lunch, call me. I love doing that stuff. So you'd be like the 500th person I've helped on my lunch break, just run through code.
I probably wouldn't.
Once you get your head around once you get your head around like data structures and you screw it up a few times, like it starts to get addictive and it's actually kind of fun to do.
I guess for me,
if you're anything like me, right, like go ahead and get comfortable with the idea that like you're going to set up your data structure in your database and then hate it and then feel like you got to redo it like every single time.
I just never enjoyed the back end, and that's why I just sort of like them SaaS products that does a lot of it for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I do realize that I may not be able to stay at my job forever, so I need to continue building up my skill set. Or I want to become more valuable at my job. I know there are certain positions that I see people in, like, oh, I want to do that one day. What they're doing, I'll love to be in 2-3 years from now. So I got to build up to it.
Well, I'll shout out a thing that I have never personally used, but I've heard good things about, and that's some of these like GraphQL based, well, not based, but like you can basically, GraphQL can be like a layer between your application and your database, and you put all kind of databases on the other end of that. And people use that for their APIs. Like I said, I've never done it. I hear people rave about it, so it seems like some folks are getting a lot of mileage out of it. So Yeah. I don't have any advice other than like, it seems like a thing that people are using for that kind of thing, and being successful with.
So, but that's what I'm trying to be. But thank y'all so much for the advice and the helps and the critiques and the for a good job. Pat on the backs.
Looking good, man.
All right, man. Thanks so much for that share. Who's up next?
I'm having issues with my database on my laptop. I don't know what's wrong with it. It's not running. It
Okay.
was just working. I don't.
No stress, Tim. Hey, let me be really nosy. What week are you in the boot camp?
I'm in my final week. I'm gonna be on my final project. Oh, okay, it's working now. I got it working now. So let me switch to the other laptop. I'm gonna cut off this Zoom, and I should be able to display everything to you. Is that fine?
That sounds great, man.
Okay. I apologize. All right.
Hey, Eric, while he's doing that, can I put you on the spot? Ask for a little blurb on next week's dojo. I know it's a new format. Something
Absolutely. Next week's dojo, we're basically just going to live code some advent of code, right? So basically like live stream format. We're not going to go try to beat down a driver or anything like that. So it'll be a little bit low key. Whatever that puzzle is on that day, that's what we'll go. We may solve it, we may not. But we'll learn something along the way.
That should be a lot of fun. Glad y'all are doing that.
Absolutely.
Tim has returned. At least part of his head has returned.
Oh, there he is.
Were you ready to share, Tim?
Man, now the video ain't working, but I got the problem. I don't know what's wrong with this laptop. Now hold on just a second. I'm so sorry.
No problem. No problem. No stress, man. And if it doesn't work today, guess what? We'll be back next month. We'll do it again.
Okay, I think I have it now. So can I share it? Just a second. Share my screen. Okay. Can y'all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
You're
Okay.
using Spring Tool Suite. I remember that
Spring
guy.
Tool Suite.
Yes.
This was assignment 14 before my final project.
Okay.
So I have to do a full stack. Basically, this is a full stack too, but it's a real rigorous program. So I've been working every day, and man, I'll tell you. But anyway, this is a chat app. I'm using Spring Tool. I'm gonna go through my code. First, I'm gonna let you see the database where I created my chat app. Here, database, my chat app. I created the database chat app 14. All right, let me come out of that. Okay, and it's running now. I'm gonna go to my controller. Let you see what I'm okay. I'm gonna take it to the welcome page, and they're gonna show you how you can. It's just instantiating generic chat app like 1990 style. It's not nothing fancy. We're in too much of the HTML or CSS code. So let me go to that now. Just a second.
It's kind of funny you mentioned it being 1990 style. I guess you know, and if you didn't know, the fundamentals of computer networking really haven't changed in 30 years. Not when you get low enough.
Okay.
It just had, and the protocols we use, the HTTP protocols that were written by Sir Tim Berners-Lee in the late 80s have not changed.
Is it showing my endpoint? Can y'all see my endpoint on my browser?
No, it's still showing the IDE, which means you
Okay.
probably selected your window instead of your screen.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see.
Share.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta stop. Okay. Okay. So
No
I
issue,
push
man.
stop.
No apologies needed. You're good.
Stop share. Okay.
You're using Hibernate.
Sure, I was supposed to share. I suppose share the screen. Am I right?
Screen, yeah.
Yeah.
That'll allow you to switch windows.
Cool. Okay, now can y'all see it?
Yep.
Okay, this is it said enter your name. Let me put my son's name in there first. This is on one of his endpoints. I mean one of my endpoints, which I'm using just his name. All right, and then minimize this because I'm gonna have to do another endpoint. I'm gonna move this out the way because it's being in the way. Okay. So this is one of my endpoints. It said join channel. I'm gonna go to. I'm not gonna create a channel. Just gonna go to general. It goes to this endpoint channel 1. I'm gonna put connected. It's that I put my son name in there, but anyway, also I put my daughter name in there. This one. Okay. Go to the local host. Okay. It should take me to. I'm gonna line these up because it's kind of bad for the general channel. It's just a basic did it come up right? Hold on. I must messed up something. Just want to go back. It must be a bug right now. Just a second. Let me close this up. Let me rerun it. I apologize for that. It was just working because I turned it in. They said I submitted it correctly. So let me do it again.
Hi, Bubbles.
Did you get a name in on that second window? Was that possible?
Yeah, I forgot to put a name in. So I'm in a rush. I'm so my bad. And I'm restart. I'm reset the database too because I got a database. You didn't have to do a database, but I was doing it so I can just make sure I can learn how to do this.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna drop the database.
Take your time, man. We're good. This is good stuff.
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna drop the database, and now I'm gonna recreate the database. Get out of that. All right. Let me go to. Should be running now. Okay. All right, we'll go to localhost again. It should take me to the welcome screen. Oh, okay, there it is. I'm sorry. Okay, go to general. Type in. Okay, all right, it's working. All right, that Windows is working on that endpoint. Okay, this one here. Localhost 8080. I think this one I got to do. Join up. Okay, there here it is now. It's working out. Just wanted a simple chat out. This basic like 1990s, what you were saying, Lawrence and Eric and everyone and JC and just a simple chat out. And my son can type back, and it's supposed to be like both of them at the same time. And, whatever.
So say you say simple, but is that WebSockets you got going on there?
Yes, with WebSockets with the repositories and everything. I'm gonna go to the code just a second. Go to the code.
I mean, that's real stuff, dude.
Yeah. So here's my I had a chat connected with JSON property with the message. Use JSON, the setters and the getters. But I used the JSON, then in my domain, set up a channel, the entity. I'm kind of nervous with Hibernate. And that's why I used a database because I wanted to save the data. The many, and one to many mapped out and everything. And also in the message, that same thing using my generated values. Got an ID. I hope I ain't going too fast. And I got a user as well. Got a user. And also here's the repository. Use the repository and I had got an error in this where I was messing up at, and someone helped me out. I was getting an error in the message repository when I was trying to bring into the controller, because controller talks to services and services talk to repository, and I was getting a issue here. Someone helped me out right here, so I got this code right. Here's the user repository here. And then I'm going to service class. Have the channel, AutoWire channel repository. I use find by ID, save the channel, create custom channel, and everything. Okay, go to the message repository. This is my code, AutoWire, the message into the user, into the message repo, so to save it to the database. But I didn't have to do that. I could have used collections. I could have used a map, but I wanted, like I said, I wanted to use the database to try to get used to the database, because I need a lot of hours in that to begin to learn that. And this is this. Hold on, let me go into this. This is the user repository, the user repo. To create a new user, find the user by ID, you set it in the database, you get the channel, you save it to the new user here. But then here's my chat. Here's where all the logic goes at, basically. Getting the get mapping, the welcome page, go to the endpoint welcome, the model that's using the Spring MVC. Y'all know that, but the model map, and list of channels. Then I got the response body by post mapping it, by catching the method. I'm getting the channel, post mapping it, getting the channel. Same thing. I'm getting the variable, model map, long variable channel ID. And same thing, post mapping. Connecting the message, getting the long channel ID and the path variable. Okay, and that's it with the controller. And also here's in my templates and my source main resources and my static. I don't know JavaScript. He just went over it like a quick like 2 videos on it, but he just wanted us to put some logic in it to learn JavaScript a little bit, so the chat app can work. And man, this JavaScript code here in the view and the HTML. Here's my code. Some of the JavaScript might be old because I've been researching, and I'm going to take a class. They hardly don't use var anymore. Mostly it's let, because var is a global variable, and it's old. But I used constant, and I did put some lets in it because it's just 2 videos he was going over to make sure we finish the project getting logic with JavaScript. I'm sorry. So this is my JavaScript code. Real simple, using a document, because that's what he's teaching was using a document query selector. And you take it and you run that to the function, you call the function, and he was telling how to fetch it and post the method. Basically the same as using Java, but just using in JavaScript. But he didn't go through it wasn't a course on it, so I'm kind of like a little confused on learning JavaScript. So that's why eventually I have to take a class on it. But just going, getting the function, fetching the message, posting it, same thing, just like in the controller. And also in the MVC, same thing. Going down the more, getting the message, getting it out the deal. And also I got a welcome JavaScript. So that's what it comes up. And this was, I was getting a bug at. I was stuck in this about 2 weeks. Someone helped me out. I was getting a bug because I was getting the code was constantly looping. So I couldn't stop the loop. Someone helped me. He uses var, told me to use var, because that's how he learned to. But I realized you really can use let, and use like double, triple equals, because it's more it's more precise, triple equals in JavaScript. But I just did it the old way because that's how I was taught. For the just like I said, it was just like 2 videos just to finish this code. And that's the end of that here. It's reading the users, it's storing the user, getting the item, and run it out to the user in the console log. Okay, just a second. This is the channels. The HTML was real simple because that's the bread and the butter of the code, based on HTML. I was binding the objects using the span, and I also figuring out JavaScript. You can put JavaScript code two or three places in the JavaScript. You can get it in its own folder, but also it needs to be in HTML too, which I'm learning that it can be in the head, it can be in the body, or it can be. It depends on where it is and how the code runs. You can get errors in your code, and that's why I would get errors. And someone told me, take this script and so I can read it, put it at the bottom. All right, and the create channel, which was in my endpoint here, which is HTML, known as time leaf, which is the Java. I took the action and post. I didn't implement it just to do it specific. I did it so it can post exactly to the one the controller is listening to. That's the way he taught us to do it. And it works too, because if you forget the endpoint that goes here, your code can have a bug and it be kind of hard to find if you have a lot of endpoints on your get mapping and post mapping. Okay, then I put the name of the chat room. I bind it to the field. I put this in, which I figured out the CSS, you don't supposed to really put it inside the code. It should have a separate folder too. I'm just learning that. But I put it in line the code so it can look better. Put the style, simple pale green, create chat, put a go back button here in the ref. And also, and the welcome here is again. Here's the time leaf telling the code. And I put the JavaScript here at the top this time so it can read the code. Because if I put it here, which I did, I put it in the body and it was getting an error. So I figured out, like I said before, is where you put the JavaScript at. So I figured it out when I bad code here too again in the body, the H1. I put it here because I'm just learning HTML. I mean CSS. I put a CSS code right here in the HTML header, the H1, and that's the end of that. And also I forgot to tell you, this is my database. MySQL driver, the chat app, the passcode, everything. You update it, all that. You can put create far as you put it in what they say. I can't think of the word. Developing mode. Yeah. So I put update. So it makes sure it's update the database every time. And that's the end of my project. So it's a chat out.
How you feel about it? How you feel about it?
I feel good, you know what I'm saying? But like you, Danny, and JC, and everyone be saying, you still be feel like I need to learn more. You know what I'm saying? Because I still have to go over these videos and read code, look at videos, making sure I'm understanding. But that imposter syndrome is in me, but I'm trying to get rid of it by constantly just going over, repeating it. I can do it doing a tutorial, but the thing is, I think like JC and everyone was saying, you got to learn how to do it by yourself. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I think I should eventually reach one day. But I'm gonna just keep at it. You know what I'm saying? It's hard, but I like it because it makes me think. You know what I'm saying? It seems to make me feel like I'm creating something out of thin space. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Especially when you see it come to life. You know what I'm saying? It's not mine. It's not like JC, but when it comes to thin life, like with the boilerplate code of the HTML and a little CSS and with the import browsers, I was like, wow, this is real. So, but
that's one of the beauties of being a developer, man. And of all the trades that there are when it comes to building, all you need is your laptop and an internet connection, and you can build from scratch unimaginable towers of unimaginable complexity as long as you have time and availability. Like, you can't do that in construction. If I was a architect, I can't just up and just start building a house. Like, I got to pull all these people and resources together. Or if I was a doctor, I can't just up and build a hospital. But as a developer, you can up and build an app that starts here and it's Twitter months from now.
Yeah, and,
All start from a few simple things. And so I love this camp. I looked it up. The curriculum is solid. So good pick on that. I love the fact that it's heavy back.
I put it in
focus. Oh, go
I
ahead.
put it in the chat name. Yeah, but it make me nervous though. You know, I'd be nervous because I'd be like, man, this stuff is working, but you know what I'm saying? Those bugs and you kind of feel bad. You're like, should I reach out? You know what I'm saying?
Well, you know, Code Connector is always a place you can reach out. You may not answer immediately, but eventually somebody's going to answer you, and it's for free. And since we all ask questions too, nobody's going to hold it against you. So just always ask questions. That's why we're here. The safest of safe places. That's our goal, at least. That's our goal.
Yeah.
No shaming, none of that Stack Overflow. This hasn't been asked already. Like, who cares?
Yeah. That question I already
If they saw the answer, they wouldn't have asked. So just
yeah. You get nervous. You're like, man, I'm just a beginner.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You're in a good place.
I'll tell you what stands out to me and that I think you should find encouraging is that the thing that you were able to do just now, going through your code and explaining what it does and understanding what you got going on, that's the skill, right? Anybody can go online, find a tutorial, copy what they did, type it down, you know, go back and check and make sure they typed everything just right and make it work. But the fact that you can come on and explain what you did, and it's clear that you understand what you're doing and how what you're doing is working, that's the thing to grow. And I think that's what's it's going to set you up on a good path.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much. I'd be so nervous even learning it. You know what I'm saying? I'd be like going through it, and like your brain be telling, do you really know this? Your brain like, well, do this. So I'd be like, it's like you having that self-talk. And I always wonder, do you always have that self-talk even though you have it on the job? Do people have their self-talk even on the job?
Oh man.
Now
I'm if I don't tell myself I'm an idiot at least once a day, it's been a slow day.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, man, you're in a field of never-ending learning. My first full day at my current job, I found 3 engineers on Udemy at the same time. If you can hear me. Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Literally at work, on the clock, on Udemy, learning something new. There is no end. This is not a field where you learn the body of knowledge and now you're done. You just go do your job. Right? That's what I'm used to from like retail and hospitality. Learn these things and you're done. There is no done with us because it is tech. That's literally because of what it's tech. It's all about advancing to the next more efficient, faster, better use case thing. So there's always learning. All of us are always learning. The minute you stop learning, you're aged out.
Yes.
So you're in the right place. And let me also throw a word of encouragement that that MVC model that you use with a particular implementation of Spring and that design pattern with the services, the repository and the controllers, and you also had your DAO. We have multiple microservices on my team at work at FedEx that use that exact same model.
Wow.
Exact same model. I mean, it was like I was literally looking at work code right now.
Wow, yeah.
Learn that deeply. My humble suggestion would be the next step, and it sounds like you're toward the end. So I guess you're at week 21, 22, something like that. So you'll be graduating soon. My humble suggestion would be try to do this, like basically what you just said, try to do this again, but do it on your own. And just mix it up. Instead of being a chat app, it might be something where we're recommending resources or I don't know, connecting mentors and mentees, just something like that, some kind of a two-way communication, but not the exact thing. Put your own little flavor on it. Maybe learn just enough HTML, CSS to give it a little nice presentation for portfolio purposes. And that'll ground in that knowledge. And what you're going to do is you're going to go so far, and you're like, oh yeah, this is cool. Then you're going to get stuck. That's okay. You go back to your resources, which is what all of us do. We go back to documentation, the Stack Overflow. Go back to your resources, find out what part did I miss? Oh, that's how you connect the controller. Then you go back to your project. See, can you do the same project again in your own way? And that way, when you do put it on your portfolio and your resume, it won't look like everybody else's that came out of the camp. And then the second benefit is it will help to solidify that knowledge for you because now you really had to, deep down in the metal and get it. So congrats to you. Congrats to you.
Thanks so much, man. I'm just so humble, man. I just like all y'all said, you, Eric, Joseph, JC, just keep doing it over and over and over. Yeah. And we always learn, like you said, you always learn.
Absolutely. And you know, I think if I were going to give any extra advice, it's always just like you stay engaged, right? Stay immersed. I've got my wife, you know, she does linguistics and languages, and one of the things that they always teach people is that you learn more when you're immersed in the thing, right? When it's around you. So continue having these conversations, hanging out with, you know, folks who are doing similar work. When you've got questions, bounce them off people, have conversations. Those are always a two-way street too, right? Like,
Yes.
man, I learn more just from having conversations with these guys on Code Connector than I ever do all by myself. So, you know, stay in it. Don't go, you know, hide in a cave and be a hermit. And, you know, feel like you're going to come out into the sun one day with a beard and like, you know, magic Java flowing out of your fingertips. It don't work that way. It's a community sport.
Yeah. I'm glad that I found the Code Connector, JC and Lawrence and you and like I'm connected to the Day of Memphis. I went to one of those and I met George and all these guys. Man, I'm just gonna stay in it. I met Danny. Man, it's something I always want to do. So I'm following a dream now. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like I said, following the dream. Thanks so much. You know what I'm saying? I'm so y'all give me a lot of confidence. Yeah.
You're in there, man. You're right where you need to be.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thanks.
Cool. All right, still got tons of time. Joseph, you said you had something you might scrounge up. Is that might turn into a definite or check
Yeah,
back? Yeah. All right.
I found it. I got it all pulled up. It's old, but it's something I can at least show. I mean, and now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, I feel bad for not finishing it. This was a cool project.
JC mentioned something about that. Hey man, floor is yours.
All right.
There's at least half a weekend left.
Oh, I don't know if I could wrap this up in half a weekend. So this was an old project. Somebody used to work with him and his wife sold candles, and they like basically took old coffee mugs and made candles out of them. Can you guys see my screen right now? So the idea is every one of them is unique, and they wanted a website to sell these candles, and every single one of them is unique. So you're not going to do a standard product upload kind of thing. So I started building this for them. If you go here, this is supposed to be the featured one. There's still a lot of formatting to make things pretty. But these are the two that are here. You know, you could filter by price, I believe. Well, it should work, yeah. So these do work. And then you have tags for colors, you know, chocolate, cocoa, yellow powder, whatever these tags are. These are all dynamically generated, and I'll kind of show how that works here in a minute. And then this is connected to Stripe. So if you add one to the cart, you can see we now have one out of the cart, and you actually could, this is all set up to a test one. I have not messed with this in a while, but, you know, fill in all your information and go through the payment process and actually pay with Stripe. And obviously, you know, there's a little modal pops up you can look at, and there's a description. What was kind of cool that I really enjoyed about making this was, so I mentioned that everything's unique. So you can hit the endpoint admin and log into the admin side of it. And now you can come through and you can see each one of the ones we had here. We have our tags. So this gives whoever, in this case, I was kind of planning on, if I let him have this, I don't want to be called to add any new products, especially if we're going to add like 10 new random things a day. I don't want to be bothered. So this allows the user to come in here and add a product. So we could go, let's say we're going to add a new one, call this, I don't have any pictures of mugs, so we'll just do, I know I did see this. We give it a cost.
I know
We
it's
give a shipping cost. Right. So, you know, obviously, and again, shipping is going to be unique. So I made that, and then we can select, do we want to make this a featured product? So that featured section on top, you know, they have the ability to come in here real quickly and just say, I want to put this on the featured, I want to take this off. The idea was to give this all control over there. So now we just added an image. Hopefully all this works. Let's see. It's like I said, it's been a long time since I messed with this. Here we go. So now we have this one added as a product. Come back over here and go back to where the regular user would be, and we should be able to see that. It's not in the featured because we never selected featured, but now it is down here. And if we wanted to, we could add that to the cart, you know, and go back through and check out or just keep shopping. No, like I said, it's not finished. There's a lot of stuff. Resizing photos on upload was a lot of that was a nightmare. And then up here, this needs formatted to keep the sizing right because I was starting to notice that as we're taking mobile, these are all mobile photos, that we're going to start running into a problem of landscape, portrait, all of that, and kind of a way to handle that. Interesting enough, this is all MongoDB connected to Atlas on the back end. Find it here. This is probably one of the last projects I used using Mongo. I haven't touched Mongo in a while, but here's our connect statement to connect up to Atlas. Not too hard to connect to. I mean, there's a .env file here with keys. And I don't know if there's any questions anybody else has, or if you guys want to see some of the code or what parts of the code. There's a lot of code here.
Man, I love e-commerce sites for projects. I just do. It just seems so real. I would love to see the code for the filter, that very first filter you showed us. And then whatever code is involved in allowing for an admin user that gets different views.
Okay. So the filter should be in utils, sort by. So here's your sort by price, high to low, and sort alphabetically. They are going to be brought into, if I can remember right. So I just have these kind of as a separate function broken out. Gonna be one of these components. It's gonna be a main. Nope. What's home component? So this is still a lot of stuff. I know I'm using those to filter them, and what I'm doing is updating the list a state object. I can find where it's at. If any of these names stand out to somebody that it would make sense it'd be there. No, that's not there. I don't know, that's an empty component. Nav, main, home, featured products.
Is it possible to use the VS Code search for that? What a utility is called? The far left side that.
Yeah, if I run through them individually.
Did we look at nav?
No, not nav component. I mean, I can explain what I was doing here. So basically, this is a map. This is a list or an array, depending on what language you're looking in. And when you're selecting this, all I'm doing is I'm changing that list. So I'm either excluding, if you're looking for something with cocoa in it, I'm excluding everything that doesn't have cocoa. But if you're trying to sort by price, I'm just going to resort that whole array. And then React's going to force a re-render because I updated state. Then your other question was on the admin side. So there's an API on here. It's going to be the admin router. And you're going to have to log in, and then everything's going to be authenticated. Once you log in, one of these, it looks like I left a note that I need to finish setting up authentication here. But all the authentication is actually broken out into JWT using Passport. So pretty much a middleware. Then I know, just for kind of fun here, JC, you've seen some of the models I've done with SQL. This is Mongoose for Mongo, and you can tell it's all, if you look at them, they're pretty darn close. So the ORMs, like switching from SQL to MongoDB, is pretty seamless once you get used to SQLize and then Mongoose. So these are the models, and then if we were to build a model, this is all Malta for handling uploads. Oh, here's your product router. So if you want to post, we're going to authenticate that the user is authenticated for posting. But products.create product. So we're just going to pass it an object, just a standard old JavaScript object. This is being passed to Mongo and then Mongoose handles all the rest. Any other questions?
Good stuff, man. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Question.
Thanks for letting
Tim,
me
I know you
share.
got a
Like I said,
question. Get in there, Tim. I know you got a question. That's a whole lot of JavaScript.
to ask away if you got questions.
I know for me, I don't have a question, but just once again, great job on application. You say you didn't touch in a while. It's still so like Tim's a lot of moving parts, a lot of different things going on using mental world and all that, and so much of it is what you'll do out in the workplace. So just thank you for showing it to us, and it's like you got a great many projects that it helped build you into a great developer.
Yeah, I think that's something that is not talked about enough. Is it's totally okay when you're learning to build a project and then leave it. There's nothing saying that you have to have this project to sell some product. No, the whole point is learning and, absorb that knowledge and move on. And it's sometimes you just need that motivation. Say, you know what, this project was a bad idea. Sounded great at first. I got into it and on to something that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like these things have a life cycle too, right? Like at some point you hit the end and it's like, I got everything I wanted out of that. Yeah, it's time to move on.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for letting me share. It's like I said, I think it's been over 2 years since I've touched that. So maybe at some point I'll come back and finish it.
Cool beans. Good share. Appreciate that, man. Who's left? Eric, anything today or not this time around?
Most of my code in the last few days has been advent of code, of course. So I do this every year where I motivate myself by writing blog posts about the different days of advent of code and cleaning up the code and putting it out there for the world. Which honestly, is a great learning experience if you're so inclined. The big thing about it, honestly, is the putting it in public part, because it forces me to go back and refactor things and explain in text like what I'm doing and why I did it. And so, there's always this little bit of self-imposed pressure to make it like look nice and be idiomatic and be the kind of code that you're happy to put in front of people. So yeah, you know what, today's was interesting because I did run across a little I'm going to call it a performance enhancement trick, right, to make your code run faster in certain situations that may or may not ever be interesting to anyone else. So let's see here. I think should be sharing my terminal. Can everybody see that? Perfect. We'll zoom in a little bit. Okay, yeah, I think that keeps everything on the screen. So for the uninitiated, advent of code is this puzzle. This guy puts it out, and every day there are like 2 parts to it. And it usually involves you get some input in a text file. You're supposed to do something with it, figure out some number, and then plug that number back into the website to see if you got the right answer. Today's, you got a bunch of strings with seemingly random letters in them. And the idea was that each of those letters represented an item in a backpack. And the goal was to figure out whether or not the two halves of the backpack like had the same, what item was in there twice for each of the backpacks, right? So this should, very quickly kind of jump out at you is like, these are set operations, right? Where it's like unique items, and you want to make a set of those things, which is, it's a data structure where you can only have one of each kind of thing in there, but you can really quickly, like, add items to it and find out whether or not that item is already in it, right? So like you could put a lowercase a in there, and then you could ask it, hey, do you have a lowercase a? And it would say, yes, I do have a lowercase a. And it doesn't have to like search from start to finish to find that lowercase a, right? And then you can do useful things like set operations, like a union, where you create a new set that's got each item that's represented in the two individual sets, or an intersect, where you've got each item that's in both. And that's what you want to do for this one, right? You want to get an intersect. You want to see, okay, what is the one thing that's in both? Okay, so that's all the background, and I'm probably just re-explaining stuff everybody already knows. But there is a special case when you're working with sets where if you know that there are only a certain number of possible options, right? And in this case, it was the range of upper and lowercase letters, right? You know that you're never going to get more than 52 possible things. It's either lowercase a through z or uppercase a through z. You're never going to be throwing a parentheses or a dash or random Unicode emoji or whatever, right? Like it's only going to be one of these 52 things. You don't actually have to use a hash set or a set. You can store each of those individual things as a single bit in a position in an integer. So your computer.
Wait. Say it again. That last part, okay. You can save it as a bit within the integer.
Within an integer. Right. So for example, you could, right, like the computer, everything's represented in binary down at the base, right? And so powers of 2 in your integer are just one bit that's set to 1 and everything else is 0. So a 2 is like, a 1 0. A 4 is a 1 0 0. An 8 is a 1 0 0 0 0, right? Like, and you're just moving the 1 from right to left. So if you can map each of those possible items to one of those bits that might be set, you can uniquely represent up to however many bits you've got in that integer, just in that integer, right? And so if you want to know, like, well, does this number have an A in it? You go check the second bit from the right. And if it's a 1, there's an A in there. And if it's not a 1, then there's not an A in there. Right. And that's a set because you're just representing each one in each place. And then you can do really, really fast set operations on these integers, because if you've got like one integer and another and you want to know, hey, what's the intersect? That's just a bitwise and, right? You go from left to right on both and you only take a 1 where they both have a 1. That's an intersection, right? If you wanted to do a union, you could do a bitwise or, where you look at both of them and every place where either of them has a 1, your output has a 1, right? And that's really, it's like, it sounds complicated, but for the computer, like it's built for that. Like that's super fast. So I've written like a ton of code here, but the key is that I'm keeping track of a set as just a 64-bit integer. It's just 64 bits. And I've got a note in here somewhere in one of my comments. Yeah. And so like, I know the coloring on this is hard to read, right? But like, there's this number up here, like, I don't know, 1341772, whatever, as a 64-bit integer. That's just a whole bunch of zeros and then like this 1. And so that for me is an uppercase A. And so, doing it that way, because I know, I've only got 52 possible values. A 64-bit integer has 64 little spots where I can put a 1. If I just map each letter to each spot in that integer, you can do incredibly fast set operations on those. And so to demonstrate that, I'll benchmark the code here. It'll warm up for a second. So you can see at the bottom here, it's doing 100 samples. It was going to run for like 5 seconds and do like 212,000 operations. This is the first part. It's doing 22 million operations in the 5 seconds that it's running. It's doing 3 million operations on part 2 here. So like, here's the time for part 1. And so you can see like part 1 of this thing, I think there are like 300 strings in this list. And you're looking at like the first half of each string and the second half of each string and trying to decide like, okay, what's the thing that's in both halves? It is running through those 300 strings in about 220 nanoseconds, which is like faster than my brain can even remember what a nanosecond is. So, weird programming trick. It's one of those things that like you occasionally run into, but you can use it to really great effect. And I can give you a real world example of where this was used. I watched a video from a guy. It's called the YouTube channel Stand Up Math, which is a really entertaining. It's like this dude's a stand-up comedian who also does like math and some coding stuff sometimes. He is not a programmer, and so like he puts together this code to go, what's the longest, how many like 5-letter words can I put together uniquely without repeating a letter, right? Like how many different ways can you do that? And, there's like 5-letter words. It was like some, Wordle inspired thing. Like how many different ways can I create 5-letter words with unique letters, right? So 25 different possible letters. And so he puts this thing together. He writes his Python code to do it. And he sets it running, and no joke, dude like sets a laptop and sets it running. It runs for a month to figure this out. Like he just leaves that thing running, and that algorithm he wrote, it takes like a month to run. So, that's cool. He does it. He figures it out. He shows them on the screen. He talks about it. It's fun. And then like a couple of months later, like people were inspired by this video, and he gets responses. And so some dude like writes an algorithm that uses this exact strategy, right? Because it's 26 possible letters that'll fit into a 32-bit integer, runs his exact same process in less than a second. So this dude sat and waited for his laptop to run for a month, and somebody else was like, no, write your code this way. And there were other optimizations as well, right? Like they did a lot of different stuff, but it went from a runtime of a month to a runtime of less than a second. And if you don't think that an employer will appreciate that on their web server, like that kind of performance improvement, that is, time equals money, right? Spent on infrastructure. It's occasionally nice to know that you can do these things. So yeah, weird programming trick for the day. Sometimes you can use an integer to represent a set and do stupid fast like set operations on it. And that's just a fun thing to know.
Yeah, this is my in-off face. Just give me a moment to absorb, and just give me a moment. Sets without sets. That sounds like a book, or at least a blog post.
So it's in my blog post, Advent of Code Day 3.
Oh shoot,
It's up
wait,
today.
where'd you post it? I'm sorry.
It's on the code channel. There's a link to it on the code channel.
Blog post is up. There it is. Thank you.
Yep. So I'll be doing these, every day for the rest of until December 25th. Some, it depends on what's in the puzzle as to what goes into the blog post, right? But I do try to find something interesting in each puzzle for the day, because for me, it's a learning experience, right? It's using a new Rust library, or a new technique, or practicing something that I've seen somebody else do and I thought was neat. So yeah, it depends on what the day is as to whether or not it's actually an interesting blog post. But today's was fun.
I'm going to need a few hours to form my questions.
Amen to that. Good stuff.
I think it's one of the wonderful things about this community and our meetups is that you get opportunity to see a large range of projects, large range of thoughts and concepts, and be introduced to, a almost like a classroom in 5 minutes.
Well, and this stuff is occasionally esoteric, right? And sometimes it's useful. But before anybody gets too carried away going oh man, Eric's got a huge brain. All the stuff that you guys showed today, I couldn't do that without spending way more time than you did trying to figure out what the crap is React expecting me to do here again. I don't know any React. React scares me. So there's just a ton of stuff, and there's a ton of variety. I get a lot of mileage out of this stuff. It's probably not as widely useful as making a decent e-commerce website. Let's be real honest.
Our minds have been opened today. Good stuff. Any last thoughts, friends, as we wrap up the last code share of the year 2022?
I just want to say a few words. I think I met you guys, the Code Connector and the dev community, and JC and everyone, you, Lawrence and Eric and Joseph, and man, I'm talking about. You just don't know is I'm on a whole level when I be around y'all. Like you said, immersion. It helped me out. I go to my job with my son and stuff and sister, but I be like, man, I'm already a developer in my mind. You know what I'm saying? I'm already there. You know what I'm saying? Just going through the motions, and I just listen to y'all. And when I was around Danny, y'all talk about it. I'm talking about, it's just pure inspiration, especially when JC talks. It's just pure inspiration because he tell you getting the miles in on the bike, and he said just how coding is 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and I remember that, and it helps me out. You know what I'm saying? Because I work mostly every day self-started, so it's really for me to be able to come to a meeting whenever I come. I'm so humble because it just helped me, and I'm thankful to be able to be around y'all guys.
Well, man, I'll tell you this, that's the kind of testimony that makes me want to keep on going. Sometimes I get tired, man, another meetup, got to turn this Zoom on, but it's helping people and making them feel more comfortable and welcome in the world that's totally foreign to them. Hey, I got to keep going. I don't have a choice. So thanks for sharing that. That being said, before we get too sappy and I start crying up in here, and I don't know if I want to see a grown man cry, I'm going to wish you all a fantastic Saturday. It's kind of pretty out here. I'm going to try to make it out to the South Haven parade because my daughter is marching in the parade in the band. So that should be a lot of fun. And I'm just going to wish you all a great weekend and a great December. Definitely check out Coding Dojo next week, Tuesday, 12 p.m. Central. Eric and the crew will be doing some Advent of Code fun, hopefully finishing. If not, definitely learning. Either way, glad to see you all. Thanks for coming out. Until next time.